All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
It's our Friday show, and I am so delighted that you are checking it out whenever you do. Maybe you're checking it out on Saturday, maybe you're checking it out on Sunday. Whenever you jump back in to check us out, thank you for being here. There are a bunch of people who are live into the chat already. I didn't see who was first in. But Tammy, another great day with Tammy, first in to the chat. And Rhonda and Zero Sum. These are all other participants as well. And you are welcome into our chat for the entire length of the show. And of course, you're welcome to leave comments after the show is done as well. But if you're into the chat now, again, Kim rides herd over it. So if you're a hater with like using caps, etc., the wrath of Kim is indeed a brutal one.
Kim, how are you?
And you will endure it if you run afoul of Kim's rules. Tony is here in place of Albert today.
Thanks, Tony.
I know. It's kind of cool, and he's worked hard to get some good stuff together. We've got quite a show. Mo Kelly joins us in hour two. We'll be talking about the week in politics. Yeah. I will tell you about this situation with the Canadians is just incredible to me. We'll get to that. We'll touch again on the scandal that has rocked the NBA. That is the cheating scandal that involved high-profile NBA players. Not so much a point-shaving scheme. It involved poker, but there was an aspect of it which involved one player tanking on a game. And we'll actually show you a little bit of what he did so that the bet that's made on how that player will do would come in the way the bettors, it is alleged, were betting. That is to say, they were betting he wasn't going to do well in a game, and so he did poorly and took himself out of the game early. So that's that. The East Wing demolition. We'll get to that with Mo Kelly. Again, Donald Trump having promised he's going to build this magnificent 90,000 square foot ballroom, and he's not going to touch the original structure, the White House. Well, he didn't touch it, but a bunch of other construction people came through and they demolished the East Wing of the White House. And now they have closed the ellipse. Washingtonians, I grew up in Washington. I know there's some Washingtonians watching. You know what I'm talking about. Those who maybe haven't been to Washington or it doesn't mean anything to you, the ellipse, and then there's no reason it would. I mean, they just have all these names for crap in Washington. So the ellipse is this kind of open field from which you can view the White House, and you have a certain perspective of things in Washington. But by closing it, which they have done, you were unable to see the East Wing construction, apparently, is the idea. So they've closed the ellipse, and there has been an edict to not show any pictures on social media or anywhere else if your office overlooks any of the construction, if you can see any of the construction from anywhere. So,
which is silly because there's satellite pictures of it. And there it is. You can see they've already torn down the East Wing. It's gone.
There's satellite pictures of it, but I have to say, when you see it in some of those close-up shots, the ones that were circulating yesterday and the day before, it is pretty, it's more intense. Yeah, there you go. There's an example. I mean, it's really intense. So, promises made, promises kept. He promised he wouldn't touch it, and we'll get more into that with Mo Kelly, because I think there's a whole I think there's a pay-to-play aspect of this that's all associated with the ballroom being paid by Palantir, Google, all of the big tech players. And there's a quid pro quo there, right? I mean, you don't throw $25 million into a project that the president cares a lot about without expecting that the president will look upon you and projects that you have favorably. And so, after decades of disappointment, DC tourists no longer have to ask, why is there no giant gaudy ballroom?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what people were clamoring for many, many years, right? Very good point. Bottom of the hour, there's a new book out from a couple of very smart MIT professors. MIT Press is putting out this book. It's called Somebody Should Do Something: How Anyone Can Help Create Social Change. It's really a book for our times, don't you think? And both of these, there were actually 3 authors involved in the book, but both the authors, Michael Brownstein and Alex Madva, will join us. I think, to be technical about it, they're not MIT professors. They are professors at other universities and colleges, but MIT Press is putting out the book, so that's why I think we kind of refer to them as MIT folk. I wanted to also recognize and thank a couple of people. Let me just see what the
Chaplain Fred.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Yeah, what's that? Yeah,
Chaplain Fred for 5 while you're looking this up.
Yeah, read that.
Says, if Mark does not show up on time, let's send him to Florida. Then we will have a real Friday Fabulous Florida. He'll be the one calling 911. Happy Friday, Mark.
Yeah, and Chaplain Fred, you are rapidly becoming one of my favorite people. Shout out to Eric and Sharon. They just became $10 Patreon members. You can support this show. You know, we didn't do a fall fund drive. And as a result, our coffers are lagging. But I kind of feel like this is a tough time, you know, for everybody. It's a tough time for our show. It's a tough time. But I was thinking about a mini fall fund drive. The reason I notice is that everybody's doing a fall fund drive. You know what I mean? I'm getting my mailbox inundated with it and all the rest. But we're not doing one yet. We might do one next week or something. We might do like a turbo fall fund drive. But nonetheless, I wanted to recognize those who have stepped up. And there were a few. And I really appreciate Patreon and PayPal subscribers, because that really is the thing that sustains us. And new subscribers, or those who up their support, make more work for Tony, who then goes and does the scroll at the end. But he gets paid for it, so I mean, it's not a complete loss.
Thanks, Tony.
But I'm just saying. But Eric and Sharon, thank you very much. $10 a month they're going to throw in to keep us going, and we appreciate it.
Yep.
I also wanted to quickly get a shout out to
Gloria Brown throwing in a couple bucks. Thanks,
come
Gloria.
on. Thank you, Gloria. Did I mention Susie Lynham?
Susie.
Yeah, went from $60 to $70 every month she throws us. How about that?
Yeah.
Pretty great.
Really
big
sweet.
shout out and big thanks.
Big shout out.
What's that, Tony? Yeah. Lan. Now, Lan is someone who came, I remember, from the radio, I thought. Anyway, $20 on Patreon, and thank you so much for that. Really means a lot. And, you know, when somebody becomes a Patreon subscriber, and we have PayPal and Patreon, if PayPal's easier for you. And we have PayPal, right? Is it PayPal that we use? Yeah.
Yeah, we do PayPal, we do Patreon, we do it all.
Yeah, we do it all. You know, I get a little ping on my phone, right? And so I'll always write back to everybody. And if I haven't written back to you, maybe it's a clerical thing or something, because typically I will at some point. I try to do it soon so I don't let it get away. But really appreciate everybody. But I want you to know, I don't just send out some kind of robo response. It's a real response, because we really sincerely appreciate it. Anyway, let's also check the emails.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
There was this one, Kim. We got an email about the White House official homepage.
Tony and I had to make sure this was legit. We thought, this can't be right. This message came from Keith. He says, howdy, Mark and Kim. Wondering if you've seen or caught wind of this. Looks like Stephen Miller's work on the official White House page. Scroll down to major events timeline and start swiping left to move the history sections. Unbelievable.
Yeah, what really follows, and for those just listening, we'll try to describe it. What follows is kind of a trolling. I mean, isn't
On the
you
official
get?
White House page, yeah.
Yeah, how would you describe it? Go ahead.
I would describe it as some very revisionist history where they pick and choose some things that, are very inflammatory. They talk about how President Biden and former Vice President Harris had Trans Day at the White House. They have a picture of the Muslim Brotherhood visit. They have Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton's scandal up there. This is the White House website of the major events happening at the White House. They have, there's the one, cocaine discovered at the White House. Remember that? And they insinuate on the White House website that it was belonging to Hunter Biden. And they have a picture of Hunter Biden all sacked out in the bathtub. There's President Biden with a trans person at the White House, the Trans Day of Visibility. I mean, it's just an excuse to have a hit piece for all the people they didn't like and all the things they thought went wrong on the White House website. I mean, this should be a historical page full of, here in 1902, we updated this, the Resolute desk and the history of that. It should be like an official history of the United States. It should not be,
Yeah, they start that way. Addition
Yeah.
of North Portico,
Mhm.
all of this rebuilding after the War of 1812. But then, as Kim says, they get into, scandal at the White House, Muslim Brotherhood visit with Obama. It's the cocaine discovered. It's really,
Mhm.
it's offensive. I can't believe it's on the White. But this is really what we've seen happen at the White House. There's been a degrading of everything. There's been a degrading of those who work in this administration. And I'm not a fan, as you know, of many of the choices, or at least a handful of the choices from the last administration, the Biden administration. But again, I think this crew is so completely filled with loyalists and those who will say anything and do anything to please this president that we live in an autocratic nightmare that is only getting worse. Ron Cook with a $20 super sticker. Thank
Big
you,
shout
Ron.
out.
Appreciate that very much, Ron Cook. But yeah, that White House really reflects where we are. So, I mean, the White House website, this is an august institution, supposedly, and it's really been degraded, as I say. So, I mean, every opportunity offered to troll Democrats and the last administration, every opportunity is taken. So, as the White House gets torn down, and as the trade policy of the United States becomes completely beholden to one man, and his reaction, reflexive reaction to feeling offended, we end up with this story. Donald Trump is terminating talks with Canada. This all over the ad that is running, which quotes Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan, in this quote, and we'll play you the ad, we'll play you a part of the quote, basically says, tariffs might seem like a good idea, but they're really a bad idea. They cost a lot of businesses their life. That is to say, a lot of businesses go under. And a lot of people end up out of work. So protectionist policies and aggressive tariff policies are bad economics. And this is essentially what Reagan is saying. And it's an old school, traditional Republican viewpoint, which is let the market decide. So what were you going to say, Kim? Sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to mention it's not AI. Because in this day and age, you think, is it fake?
Sure.
No, they're excerpts pulled from a late 80s radio. They used to have the radio address the president did.
Yeah.
So this is their actual words from President Reagan. Now, the Reagan Foundation says, it's taken out of context and it's not exactly what he meant by this, but it's his real words. It's not altered.
Trump is saying that
altered.
Trump saying that Canada is trying to interfere with the Supreme Court case that's on about the legality of reciprocal tariffs. I mean, let's play a little bit of the spot, and you can hear it.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
So there you have it, and that's run by Ontario. I think the is it the state of Ontario or the province of Ontario? Yeah.
The Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, says we are going to run this over every station that hits at the border where there's the Republican districts. He's really into it. And I think spurred on by the anger of Trump, because this is really sitting the wrong way with Trump. He's got so pissed off that he canceled trade negotiations over it.
So Ontario ran the ad during the game in the American League Championship Series between the Blue Jays and the Mariners. And 9 million people were watching that, according to the Fox Sports ratings. And it's apparently it's public domain, so they can use it without like the approval of the Reagan Library, although the Reagan Library has weighed in. And we'll talk more about this with Mo Kelly, but it's consequential, not so much for the ad, which would likely go probably somewhat forgotten, were it not for the fact that Donald Trump has made the centerpiece of his economic policy these tariffs. These tariffs are a horrible idea. They're imposed impulsively and chaotically. Witness this situation where he sees an ad that he doesn't like, and impulsively, again, he then cuts off trade negotiations with the Canadians. I mean, this is not only a king, but a mad king. And so the wants and impulses of a mad king only lead to bad things. And sadly, he doesn't really have a very good idea. The only ideas that he has that I think are really good are associated with branding himself. He is really great at branding. And so he likes to brand things, rename things, and particularly those things that relate to Donald Trump. But when it comes to economic policies and foreign policies and international relationships, and he has no interest, he has no knowledge. And Michael Wolff, his biographer, the writer, who spent all of these hours both with Melania Trump and Donald Trump, also with Jeffrey Epstein, Michael Wolff says you have to understand, and David K. Johnston says this also. David K. Johnston, who has literally written chapter and verse and book after book about Donald Trump. David K. Johnston says as well, you have to understand, he knows nothing. But I mean nothing. I mean, imagine nothing. It's less than that. But he has power, and he's being used, I think, effectively used by a Republican Party that has an agenda. He wants them to keep a lid on the Epstein files. They have. And now he's surrounded by functionaries and loyalists who'll do whatever he wants. And what he wants is to go after his enemies or perceived enemies. So the latest, I would just pivot from this and draw your attention to, and I'll mention this to Mo Kelly, the IRS. You know how the mortgage irregularities are being weaponized, turned on Adam Schiff, turned on Letitia James, turned on Cook, I forget her first, Lisa Cook, is it? Mm-hmm. Lisa Cook on the governor's board at the Fed. So that's all because of that one guy who's crazy. He's even a little extreme for a lot of MAGA people. And he's in charge of this world of mortgages. So he can look through all this mortgage information, which is private information, typically don't have access to, and the Justice Department wouldn't review on any level, but he can. And if he notes any irregularities, that he can then assign to those who are perceived dissenters or opponents of the president, he can bring that to the attention of the Justice Department and hatch these various cases. as he did with Letitia James, he did with Lisa Cook, he did with Adam Schiff, etc. Well, now that same plan is being hatched where?
The
At
IRS?
the IRS.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The IRS is now weaponizing their department to the point that they are going to start prosecuting cases over taxes. And they'll start prosecuting those cases against people who are the perceived enemies of the president.
They're looking for people who are big donors to leftists.
It starts with left organizations, charities, nonprofits, any institutions that seem to quack left, and then it goes to leftists, those who are part of that organization, those who donate to those organizations. This is an autocracy. This is authoritarianism. It's on full display. It's not a slow walk. Welcome. We are here. You can cut the ribbon. When we come back, we have for you a conversation about what you can do about stuff. Also, this goes to another question that we get a lot. And I think we ask a lot. We all ask this question, which is, what can I do? I mean, it all seems so overwhelming, you know? Whatever change you want to make, the only change you feel like you're really capable of, I hate to say it, I mean, this might be an extreme example, but I always feel like your diet, that's about all I can control. Like, I'm realizing everything else is really difficult. Maybe being on time, you can kind of, you know, punctuality, that's something else that you could clean up. Maybe some work habits, you know what I'm saying. But apart from that, when you're talking about societal change, those things culturally and societally that bother you, you feel overmatched. You feel like just there's too much here. Well, these authors who are going to introduce you to, they've written a book about just this phenomenon, what you can change, and how personal change actually does connect with other change and does affect large change, systemic change. It's a really cool book and a really cool concept. You still want to give credit to Trump for the peace talks in the Middle East? Seeing that he's a mad king, Mark, you still feel Trump deserves credit? Let me answer that directly, Chaplain Fred, and thank you for the $5 super chat, and say, yeah, I give him credit for that moment, which is exactly what I said at the time. I'm not giving him credit for bringing Middle East peace. I'll just review. People said they wanted a cessation of hostilities. They wanted the Israelis in a ceasefire. They wanted Hamas in a ceasefire. They wanted humanitarian aid to be permitted back into Gaza. And they wanted some kind of hostage release of the sort that we saw. What did we get? We got a hostage release, we got humanitarian aid, and we got a ceasefire. Now, the ceasefire, like all ceasefires, violated here and there, their claims back and forth. Now you could say, what has it been, 2 weeks? You could say it's fallen apart completely. I don't know that it's fallen apart completely, but I do know that there are militia groups that are growing up in Gaza, and that there are Israeli troops and Israeli military is active in Gaza. Don't think they're as active as they were, but they are. But again, I give him credit for that moment. And it's not just me. Google it. Everybody who you can respect, who has a perspective on international affairs, gave Trump credit for that moment. I played you a bunch of them here. I'm not giving him credit for being a peacemaker out of any sort of real altruism. He is a dirty dealer, dealing with other dirty dealers. Look at who, and again, I will wrap this up, but give me 60 more seconds. Look at who was at that, quote, peace agreement or the ceasefire agreement. UAE, Qatar, the Egyptians, the Saudis. What you saw there was a collection of countries and leaders, all of whom got something. They all wanted a relationship with Washington. I mean, it was a pivot point for this region to have that kind of buy-in from all of those states. But that said, it was a dirty deal. Of course it was. Trump's dirty. He doesn't make any kind of deal if it's not dirty. All of his deals are dirty. I was saying he was the gangster to deal with the other gangsters. I mean, I knew that the minute this thing fell apart and then hostilities began again, I was going to get, but really, Mark, you see what happened? We told you. I get it, dude. You think I don't know it's going to fall apart? Of course it's going to fall apart. But you wanted to stop the bleeding at the time, and whoever stopped the bleeding at the time deserved credit. That's really where I was coming from. All of Trump's deals are about money, ego, transactional relationships that deal with both. I completely agree. And that's the point that I was making. Thank you, Trevor Starr in Hollywood, for saying it. Mark, you don't have to try to justify this again. Your position is the incorrect one. Thank you, Trevor. I appreciate that. So I really...
You just don't get it.
I guess I don't.
You don't.
So. Yeah. Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Wow, great reference. Penny, thank you very much for that. All right. Smash the like button like a boss, if you would. Mo Kelly in hour 2, and our 2 brilliant professors upcoming. Mark Thompson Show.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show. The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm super excited. It is true. And the reason I'm super excited, besides just talking to 2 really smart guys, is they've written a book that may be the book for this moment in time. Michael Brownstein and Alex Madva, co-authors. The book is Somebody Should Do Something. It's about ordinary people and how ordinary people can take action to build real change. And it also speaks to sort of the tug of war between the individual having power and the collective having power. You know, like when you feel like sort of overmatched by the system, what can you do to actually make a difference with that system? How about it for Michael Brownstein and Alex Madva, everybody? Yeah. Congratulations, guys. Really, an exciting piece, and as I say, I think it's met its moment. You know, there is a sense that there's this tidal wave of change happening over our culture, over our society, political society, cultural society, as I say, and it can be overwhelming. And what can the individual do? What possible power might I have as an individual to affect any change? There are a bunch of really cool examples in the book that I'll get to, but just speak to that thesis and that question, if you would, right out of the chute. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. And as scary as the times we're living through right now are, we're glad to have a book out right now. You know, it says something for publication delays. The book came out of a bunch of research that Alex and I and our co-author Dan Kelly had been doing for about 15 years, really trying to understand the relationship between the choices we make as individuals and the complex, often overwhelming systems and institutions that structure the world we live in. And we kept running up against this idea that making change in our lives, the things that we can do, is somehow ineffective or limited in reach or even like wrong-headed. And we just thought that has to be wrong, because if change is ever going to be made, it's going to be individual people working together who can make it happen. And so we wanted to canvas both the history of social change and also the contemporary social science that really kind of gives a picture of what works. What are the things that we can do that create real power versus the things that just kind of make us feel better or discharge our guilt? And that gave birth to the book.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you talk about this, because there is a sense one can easily have that I, as an individual, have such a limited impact on whatever it might be. You guys talk in the book about fossil fuel interests, I'll just say. You know, essentially the corporatocracy that's grown up around fossil fuel is immense. You know, how can I, as a result of, riding my bike to work and back, really have any kind of impact on this? But Alex, you draw it out, and it is actually far more complicated, and there is a line that you can draw between your actions and your thinking and the end goal.
Absolutely, yeah. We can get some into the way that corporate polluters have brainwashed us into thinking that the primary things we can do to fight against climate change are just recycling, buying an EV, and so on. But it's interesting to note here that part of the problem of what we call either or thinking in the book is, on the one hand, you have this sort of individualistic approach where you're just focused on your isolated individual actions, but then it seems like they don't matter. And then on the other hand, people are rightly saying we need to change the system. But then it becomes really unclear what we can do to contribute to that. And here it's really striking that it's not uncommon to come across headlines of folks saying things like, I work in the environmental movement, I don't care if you recycle, or going vegan won't save the climate, corporate polluters have to be held accountable. Because when you read those articles, they make it incredibly clear what not to do. This doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter. But then you go way, way below the fold, and they very vaguely start to talk about, oh, just, do political action instead, right? And so it's actually really unclear what to do instead of these supposedly pointless things that they're telling us don't matter.
And just because you mentioned it and touched on it, you actually talk in the book about this ad with this Native American supposed to be, and it's this actor, I guess he's an Italian actor, wasn't even a Native American, but he's cast in this role. It's a super effective ad. It's about pollution and how, like, it's kind of an extension of the only you can prevent forest fires thing. It's like only you can prevent the kind of pollution that has inundated our society and culture. And it was insanely effective. And you talk about it in the book because there are a lot of complexities associated with it I really had no idea about, beyond the fact that I knew that that guy was not an American, Native American. But I had no idea that it was really cooked up by the very interests that were the polluters. Isn't that right, Michael?
Yeah, it is. And in fact, it's the same company that came up with a lot of these, what scholars sometimes call responsibilizing ads, where they put social problems on the shoulders of individuals. So only you can prevent forest fires. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. So there's a really long history, and we tell some parts of it in the book of shifting the focus, shifting the public conversation onto the shoulders of individuals. But of course, to come back to the point before, if we're going to make change, it is going to be individuals working together in new ways that do that. And so really what we try to do is shift the concept of what it means to take responsibility. And so, you were asking about, like, if I ride a bike or drive an EV or recycle, like, does it matter? And one way to think about whether it matters is like the literal amount of carbon pollution you save every time you don't get in your car and you ride a bike instead, or drive an electric bike or whatever. But there are different ways to think about your individual contribution, even in doing those daily, seemingly small things. So for instance, you can think of yourself as a member of a community who is showing your neighbors what you care about and what's normal and what's sort of the new or even cool thing to do. And there's all kinds of research that suggests that that kind of peer influence, acting as social proof for other people in your network, is actually far more powerful than we tend to think it is. So a really good way to predict who's going to put solar panels on their roof is to see if their neighbors have done it. A really good way to predict if somebody is going to become a voter is to find out if their dorm roommate in college was a voter. It's the same story in so many different aspects of our lives. The best way to predict who's going to quit smoking is if their spouse quits. We are thoroughly social creatures, and we really try to pull out the lessons for that if you want to be what we call a social change entrepreneur.
I mean, that's particularly relevant, I think, coming off of the most recent No Kings protest, where you heard a lot of, I would have gone, but I know it's not going to make a difference. There's no stopping them. I'll try to stop them at the ballot box, but I don't even know if that's going to work because they've got things. I mean, you can build a kind of superstructure of psychology over yourself such that, you're just helpless and there's nothing to do. But I saw personally the No Kings protest in many different ways. Sure, they're on one level ignoring it, but another level they can't stop talking about it and recharacterizing it as the Hate America protest and all the rest of it. If it didn't make any difference, they wouldn't be talking about it that way in so many different ways, and even trolling with the bombing over the 5 freeway in Southern California and all this sort of thing. And more to the point, which I thought was so powerful in your book, which is that there is this, there's this adhesion, there's this connection between people in your community and yourself, and we all gain some strength and energy moving forward as a result of that. And so being there, it energizes us. It energizes us maybe in an area we were already somewhat energized, but it is really uplifting to see so many people who care so much about fill in the blank, whatever the issue is that you're trying to affect change of. You know, Alex?
Absolutely. So there's one kind of risk here where people might just go to the protest and think, okay, I've done my job. I don't need to do anything else. But the kinds of social effects that Michael was talking about also create another possibility, which could be that even if you showing up at that protest, you didn't somehow, simply by being there, tip the scales so that it went from, 699,999 people to 7 million. But even if that sort of dynamic didn't happen, especially if you showed up in like your local town, you might have seen someone there who you didn't expect. And maybe they saw you there and didn't expect you to see you there. And that creates a possibility for building coalitions and finding community and realizing you're not so alone. And so many of the elections that we have coming up are really small local elections. School board elections can be decided by 5 folks. So maybe your vote in that election isn't the deciding ballot, but maybe you got 5 other people to vote who did, and that could be the difference. I do think we would be remiss not to dive into some of the story of how we got brainwashed into individualism. So I would like to share the story of the Crying Indian ad, if you don't mind.
No, I'm delighted to have you share it. It's one of the things I absolutely, as I say, I was transfixed by all the details that I had no knowledge of prior to your book. Go ahead.
So the protagonist is Iron Eyes Cody, who, if you watched any Western film or TV show between 1930 and 1990, you almost surely saw. He starred alongside John Wayne. He has his own Hollywood star. He sings in the background of Joni Mitchell's Lakota, but this was probably his most famous role. It came out in 1971, a public service announcement, so this is just a year removed from Earth Day, which was the largest protest in American history, with No Kings being the second largest since then. And the ad is responding to the situation where littering had become a really huge problem in the U.S. So people would go on a picnic and then just kind of pick up the picnic blanket and just leave all the trash there and think nothing of it. So in the ad, you initially see Iron Eyes Cody dressed in full Native American garb, and he's paddling down a river, and it seems really restful and peaceful. But then he starts to see trash in the river. You start to hear ominous drums in the background. You see a giant factory spewing smoke in the background. And as he gets closer and closer to the shore, there's more and more trash. He walks onto the shore, and there's a freeway there. Driver passes by, opens their window, and throws out a bag of trash that lands at his feet. He turns to the camera, revealing a single tear falling down his cheek. And we hear the narrator say, "Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country, and some people don't. People can start pollution, and people can stop it." And as you noted, it was an incredibly powerful ad. It's when people view it today, they still say that they approve of the message. There's good reason to think that it actually made a huge difference in bringing down levels of littering. But it turns out that wasn't its real purpose. The ad was sponsored by a group called Keep America Beautiful, which was also responsible for Only You Can Prevent Forest Fires and Gruff the Crime-Fighting Dog and so on. And the consortium of organizations behind that group were organizations that did canning, chewing gum companies, chips companies, packaging companies, and what they all had in common was that they were selling products to American consumers in containers that had to be thrown out, that could not be recycled. And there was a growing movement at the time to create producer responsibility laws, where we were going to put it on the producer of this junk, that put the responsibility on them in order to take care of this stuff. In fact, Vermont had even passed a law banning the sale of goods in non-returnable containers. And so, of course, these companies wanted to keep making money. And so they realized they had to change the conversation. And it's a basic formula that we've seen play out again and again and again, where they deflected the responsibility from where it belongs on themselves onto us, and brainwashed us all into thinking that all we have to do is take care of our little private corner of the world and take responsibility for our isolated actions. And then, like, drops make an ocean, all the little drops in the bucket will add up, and then that will make the difference. And so part of what we're trying to do in the book is, as Michael was saying, hold on to the idea of responsibility, but think about it as responsibility to each other and responsibility to building a community. And another really important dynamic here is not thinking about our own actions as isolated within our own lives. So the actions you take today can shape the person you become tomorrow. So it's possible that you just go to the No Kings protest and check out, but it's also possible that that moment when you're with other people plays a kind of bootstrapping role and has a kind of positive feedback loop effect where you yourself become more committed to fighting for change and bringing along more people with you.
I want to segue quickly to the problem with race in America and how that again seems sort of to have taken on a lot of different moments and systems within the system. Can you talk about Section 8 housing for a minute, Michael or Alex?
Sure. Yeah, so the two main examples that we work throughout the book are climate change and racism, although we touch on quite a number of other contemporary problems. So we use the example of housing vouchers to illustrate a really important and often overlooked feature of social change. And it speaks to a role that any of us can play in helping to create social change. So many cities have housing voucher programs that are meant to help people who want to move from one neighborhood to another where there are better resources, better public schools, safer streets, more closer proximity to businesses, and so on. And the history of the success of those voucher programs is not great. And what's really striking is that even in cases where they are quite well funded, where people can get a lot of money to use to move neighborhoods, the uptake is usually not stellar. It's much less than you'd want it to be. And so we learned about some really fascinating research by Raj Chetty and colleagues who have a series of experiments trying to figure out how they can encourage more success in these sorts of programs. And what they found is that when they created a role for what they called navigators, which are really just people who are meant to help implement the process, they're like good customer service for the program. So they help people find new houses to move to. They reassure landlords in the new neighborhoods that the new renters have passed through all kinds of screening and are reliable and so on. They sort of fill the gaps that often get ignored. And the results of this sort of project are astounding. Chetty, who's an economist, said of one of these projects that it was the biggest effect size he'd ever seen in a social scientific paper. So the lesson that we draw out from that is that it's very easy to pay attention to the desire to start change, to have a kind of flashbulb moment where, like a protest, everybody shows up in the streets and demands change. And that is hard and that is crucial. But what often happens is even when some good policy gets enacted, like these sorts of housing voucher policies, a lot of the success turns out in the implementation. And that's when a lot of well-intentioned people go back to their daily lives. They stop paying attention. So the crucial nature of implementation, success over time for social change really kind of gets ignored. It's not as sexy as the instigating moment. And again, it's a role that any of us can play. So in another context, oftentimes with local climate legislation, like for instance, how building codes change the sorts of requirements that builders have to use for clean energy. The way those get implemented doesn't get a lot of attention, right? People fight hard to get them put into law, and then they go back to their daily lives. But people can show up to those zoning board meetings, those building code meetings, and demand good implementation. So we try to connect the dots across topics from racism to housing policy to climate and so on.
I thought that I don't know if you use these words, like the paradox of the box. You know, the box I'm talking about, Alex. Where you,
yeah.
Can you speak to that, because it is kind of weird. You'd think that you're trying to make a change in one direction and it ends up with a completely different result.
Yeah. So our book also profiles lots of cases of well-intended policy changes and interventions that had all kinds of unintended consequences. So one of the most notorious was the introduction of Australian cane toads into Australia. They were trying to eliminate pests there, and the cane toads didn't care about the pests, but the cane toads were poisonous, and so a bunch of other small mammals have suffered, and now there's the continent is overrun with cane toads. And we also talk about interventions like this in the context of trying to fight against discrimination on the basis of race or on the basis of someone's criminal record. And it's a particularly important area to look at because it's an area where people on whatever side of the aisle are often extremely confident about what is the right policy fix. And we are usually not. And so we think that when you look at examples like the one I'll tell you in a moment, that we need a lot more humility when we go into these processes. So in field studies, what researchers have found is that having a criminal record can severely hurt your chances of getting a job. For a white man in one field study without a criminal record, they had about a 34% chance of getting a callback for an interview. With a criminal record, they had a 17% chance of getting a callback. And then for a black man without a criminal record, they had a 14% chance of getting a callback. So the first thing to notice is that a white man with a criminal record had a better chance of making it to the next round than a black guy without one. But then black men with criminal records only had callbacks about 5% of the time. So for a black man with a criminal record in these field studies, it was kind of like, just don't bother. And part of the problem here, people thought, is that when you're applying for a job, you have to check a box that says whether you have a criminal record. So it seemed like, hey, we have this really quick and easy fix here. We don't have to persuade anyone to stop being racist. We don't have to worry about people's racist hearts and minds. We can just remove that information from the application, and then people can no longer discriminate on the basis of a criminal record. And there's some evidence that for black men with a criminal record, it did slightly increase their chances of getting a job, but it actually decreased black men's chances overall. And that's because when you remove that information, when people are not allowed to clarify that they don't have a criminal record, if say there's a gap on the resume, then employers, well, guess what happens? Maybe their stereotypes enter into the scene and they assume that all the black guys have criminal records. And so it's actually worse overall. And so this also ties into a larger theme that we have in the book, which is a very common thing that you'll hear among people who are trying to fight for structural change. Is they'll say things like, don't worry about changing the hearts and minds. We just need to change the system. Policy change over mental change is, for example, something that Ibram X. Kendi has talked about. And we think examples like this show that like it's not going to work that way. If you want to fight for changes that are best for all of us, we have to also confront the prejudices and stereotypes inside people's heads. As Michelle Alexander says, we have to stop having the mindset that puts black men in the box, whether or not we have that process there at all. But it's a really striking example of how we don't know in advance what's going to do the trick. And so it's incredibly important to have a kind of experimental mindset where we're trying things out and we're sort of building it into the policy that we're going to check to see if it works. And if it's not, we're going to go back to the drawing board and keep.
Yeah, I mean, don't completely bake the cake. You know, it really is. You talk about you're sort of road testing these things as the most responsible thing to do societally. I only have another minute or two, but one of the things I love about the book is you do have all these stories, all these examples. It's underpinned by a thesis and a general point that you're making, and multiple points. But there are all of these wonderful examples. And before you leave, give me a moment about Mothers Against Drunk Driving, would you? Because that's, I think, another one.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Mothers Against Drunk Driving is probably one of the most successful advocacy groups in recent American history. So by 2004, I think it was, which is about 25 years after the group was founded, something like 94% of Americans have heard of it. They played a role in changing the laws and the national laws around the drinking age. And more importantly, perhaps, they really shifted the norms in our culture around drinking and driving. The fascinating thing about the story for our purposes is that the way they did it was, of course, partly that it was started by a really charismatic leader. Her name was Janice Leitner. And that, I think, is a crucial role for social change, leaders and people who are really fired up to dedicate their time and their lives to making change.
And that story, her story, was such a moving one. Her loss,
very
right?
right. Yeah, that's right. So her child was killed by a drunk driver. She had other family experiences with loss around drunk driving, and so it lit a fire in her, and I think that's an undeniable part of the story. But another part of the story is the method, and I would say the message that she really used, which was to pin drunk driving on the bad choices of individuals. The original name was not actually Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It was Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. And she really tapped into the ethos of the era, the sort of Reagan and Thatcherite emphasis on personal responsibility. And so it's a funny story for us because we're not really fans of Reagan and Thatcher and that political message. But what it means is that successful social change and sort of endeavors to change the system really require understanding and tapping into where the people are, the culture and the hearts and minds of the people you're trying to affect. And so they did that very successfully. And I think people in our position today who are fighting fascism and for democracy or fighting against the climate crisis have to be very careful to do the same thing and think about who are we trying to change and what is it that they care about.
The started this conversation with the clear fact to me that this book is for this time because it does really give you a sense of empowerment that we really all can make a difference. It's funny, we all make choices in our own lives, and I guess it's been like 12 years ago I decided to be a vegan. I was like, initially I was really like a militant vegan, like meaning I would look for chances to talk about. I didn't want to be the guy like that vegan, like the stereotype vegan where you're going, nice to meet you, I'm Mark Thompson, I'm a vegan. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to be that guy. But if somebody would say, well, how come you don't eat dairy? I mean, dairy seems kind of, then I would go off. And my other half would go, oh my God. She'd say, just don't ask him about dairy, because he'll go, whatever it might be, dairy, eggs, etc. There's always a reason, right? But one of the things you're struck with is it's just a personal choice. For me, I couldn't countenance being part of this anymore. I wasn't trying to build a movement, but what you guys discuss, and it's so right, is that, no, that community, that moment, we touched on it in this conversation, when somebody asks you a question about it and you tell them, or when somebody else is part of a movement or part of a shared philosophy or strategy moving forward for your life, it might be weight loss, whatever it is, as you guys point out, it really does animate you further. It works both ways. And so the kind of multifaceted aspects of choices that we make and as a society and individually, I think that's what you guys really get into in Somebody Should Do Something. So thank you. I really think your book is powerful in this way. Have you found, it's very early, I think the book's just come out, right?
That's right. Yeah, mid-September.
Yeah. So I hope you're going to continue to get great reaction. We're going to have a link to the book under this video. You can get the book just by clicking on that link. And I can't thank you enough for being through. And I hope when you update the edition, you'll come back through and we can have another conversation. I really enjoyed it.
We'd love to. Thanks so much, Mark, and thank you for all the important work you're doing on this show.
Okay, Alex and
Thanks
Michael.
again.
Thank you guys. All right, thanks.
The Mark Thompson Show. The Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Right on, right on. It's our Friday show. I'm excited. I'll swing right into one of my favorite people here in a moment. Thank you for hitting the like button. You got to smash it. It is part of the YouTube universe. I know it seems weird, like it doesn't cost you anything. Why is it important? Because if you get enough likes in relation to views, it helps your videos show up in feeds where they don't even know you exist. So there is that. Sausalito Steve, thank you for a $20 super sticker, my friend. Big shout out to Sausalito Steve.
Big shout out.
Noe Marie Clarity with a $10 super chat says, watch the Cane Toad documentary in high school, and it's haunted me since. Yeah, the Cane Toad was referenced in that conversation. That and the kid who did a school-wide speech about, what is that, Kim? You're muted. All right. What is that, Kim?
That would be a capybara, Mark.
And what is that?
That's a creature endemic to Australia. That's looks like a kind of a giant rodent.
Oh yeah, sure, exactly. Right now, right. I see it now. Yeah, I see it in my dreams. This information is likely the key to many of my husband's questions. Wow. A ginormous guinea pig. Right. Thank you. There they are. Thank you, Becky E. Giant rodents. Yeah, world's largest rodent. Oh. World's largest rodent feels like a good nickname for somebody. I don't know.
I feel like I got enough credit for just knowing that. I mean, I know that
you're
I
absolutely right. I'm sorry. I think
I'll actually take 2 dings for that. Thank you.
Honestly, your muting yourself hurt you a little bit in terms of points awarded.
Right.
So I probably shouldn't have given you a second ding, but I did anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I agree. You did come through at a critical time, so I appreciate that. Smash the like button and we continue. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I can't believe it. I'm such a fan of this guy. He's so brilliant, really, when it comes to politics, American culture, international relations. You can throw anything at him, and he is terrific, and he joins us now regularly on Fridays. He is the brilliant Mo Kelly, everyone.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time it may be.
Yeah, so people do take this stuff in now, Mo, at all hours, so that is an appropriate greeting. I have so much to ask you about. I mean, the No Kings protest seems like it was a month ago. It was just, I think it was last weekend, wasn't it? I mean, it was, or was it, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is between then and now, we've ended up with this remarkable pack of stories that must be commented upon. I'm going to leave aside the Canada thing today, which just happened, the cutting off of the trade negotiations with Canada based on this ad that's running that's quoting Ronald Reagan about tariffs. I'll get to that. But to me, the story in a world of grift, which is this administration, the Trump administration, the $230 million lawsuit to, in some way, rectify the wrongs associated with the fact that Trump was harassed, in his view, the victim of a witch hunt over the documents that he took to Mar-a-Lago and elsewhere, and, of course, the case against him that was being built around his collusion with Russia to build a campaign. So he assigns the number $230 million for my pain and suffering, Donald Trump is saying, and he presents it to Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, who are virtually his personal attorneys. Blanche literally was his attorney before he became number 2 at the Justice Department. And then Trump himself is the guy who has to sign off on the check being cut. It is out in the open, full-on money grab. Thoughts, please.
Yes, he's playing both sides of this legal issue. But let me back up to last week, because I want to politely remind everyone that when we were so caught up in the Trump getting credit for the release of the hostages. I've made the point, slow down. This media cycle is going to change in 5 minutes, and we need not get distracted with every little thing or fight the battles which are really less important. And here we are with the more important things, and how the news has swung in this direction, and this grift is out in the open. And let's not forget, it's the sum total of 230 million is grossly close to the cost of this dance hall that they're building on the side of the White House with private donors. Let me get it in the screen. Private donors. Laser beams. All I'm saying is let's not be so outraged with everything that we miss the important things. The grift is very important. How he's trying to enrich himself is very important. Going forward, that should be the focus, not necessarily whether he gets credit for releasing hostages. We also have to be mindful that we may be in a war with Venezuela before the weekend is out. Well, there are far more things to be concerned about.
This is a great point you're making. Thank you. And I will tell you, and I'll raise my hand and say, I made the point, and I'm barked out of my own show by a lot of people in my chat, because I did give him credit for that. Not for a peace deal, not for making even a sweeping ceasefire deal, but for stopping the bleeding in the moment, which was associated with a hostage release and getting humanitarian aid into Gaza, and at least an apparent cessation of hostilities, even though we've seen the ceasefire. But more to the point, it was exactly what you're saying. It was for being there at that moment to get the humanitarian aid in, hostages out, blah, blah, blah. But now it's only the moment. It was to stop the bleeding at that moment. It wasn't a Middle East peace deal. It wasn't a big crafted arrangement with a 20-year layered in. I mean, that's all crap. So it was his play for a Nobel Peace Prize or whatever. And as I said at the time, a Nobel Peace Prize? This is a guy who is weaponizing the military against his own people while he's knocking out innocent fisher people off the coast of Venezuela. Are you kidding? Meanwhile, he's smack-talking Ukraine, which is supposedly, and I think quite, you can defend the notion that they are the victims of Russian expansion. So the idea that he's he's a peacenik or in any way an agent of peace is absurd. I was really only speaking to the Middle East thing, but now we get to the grift. And, this is the other thing, Mo. And then, and by the way, welcome to the show. This is what you have to do. You have to sit here and listen to me blab for a little while, and then I shut up for a while. But but part of my blab is this. I love that we are focused on the corruption, because in my judgment, the one thing the Democrats really have, and if you just want to talk about the politics of it, what you have in this administration is corruption on parade. You have corruption at the highest levels. And there is probably plenty of corruption going on below the surface of this iceberg. But what we can see in this iceberg, the corruption iceberg, is just this week, the pardoning of the Binance controlling stockholder. That was someone who pled guilty to money laundering, to to fraud. You saw the same thing with George Santos. You see how, and there's a litany of white-collar criminals who've been pardoned as well. So pardons are for sale, the $230 million grab, the quid pro quo associated with Palantir, Google, etc., sponsoring the ballroom. It's all of a kind, and the kind is corruption.
And that's the easiest case for Democrats to make leading into the midterms. People can understand that. They can wrap their minds around it. It's not as sexy as some of these other things that we want to be outraged about, but it's a part of a larger continuum. You can talk about the ballroom. You can talk about the pardons. You can talk about all these other moves which are being made, but it's around a common theme or message of corruption and grift. And to your point, Mark, I like how you put it all together. And if Democrats actually want to do well in the midterms, and I think they want to do well, but whether they will do well will be incumbent upon them being able to message coherently and cogently those points, because people who are struggling with their groceries, people who are struggling in the financial aspects of their lives can understand genuine outrage regarding corruption. Now, here's the problem with the midterms. People talk about the congressional approval ratings, how low they are, how they hate Congress. Well, that's as an aggregate. That's as a body. We think of Congress or the House of Representatives. But by and large, people like their congressperson, which leads to those people being reelected. The Democrats need to put this on a, as they say, all politics is local. They have to put it on a very personal and local level where people can understand that because of this grift, you have fewer things in your life. They have to make that connection.
That's just exactly how it has to be done. You have to A and B it. You have to say, you can't afford groceries. You can't afford health care. They are stuffing money into their pockets with both hands. Donald Trump is getting $230 million in taxpayer money, that's your money, into his pockets, Donald Trump's pockets, and so on. You just, boy, it is corruption on parade. It's a shakedown of academic institution, of legal institutions, of media institutions, and now of the government by the Trump organization. Having Eric and Don Jr. there alongside at the Mideast peace talks, at the announcement. They were doing business. I mean, you're so bent out of shape about Hunter Biden. These guys are doing business in every possible way, transacting alongside that peace agreement for a golf course in Qatar, a resort in Vietnam. This will all be done alongside tariff relief. This is all transactional. The administration is the most corrupt in history, and it's all right there for you to see.
There's one thing that you're missing, Mark, and I don't know if you discussed it, so please correct me if I'm wrong. And I don't know if your viewers and listeners have discussed this. Part of this race by the Trump administration to do all these things at once, it's more than just flood the zone. We're dealing with a man who may not even be with us in 2028. I can't even bet that he's going to make it through 2026. And I say this with great respect because I saw the decline of my father. And when you see the swollen ankles and you know that he's dealing with congestive heart failure, you can understand then why they're quickening the pace of making all these changes and trying to get all these things done before he is fully incapacitated. I'm not saying that because I want that to happen. I'm saying that out of great respect because he is still someone's father, someone's grandfather, someone's husband. I'm not losing sight of that. I'm saying that part of the reason why all these things are happening right now is because the Republican apparatus knows that the time of MAGA is going to be short-lived at this point.
Well, the time of MAGA may extend, I'd say, Mo, because I think it is a real movement, and there are people coming up who are younger. They'll, I think, alter MAGA. But to your point, and I very much agree with this, and this is sort of like the true thing we can never know, will MAGA survive in any kind of robust way after Trump? Trump is a charismatic, generational figure. Again, people will be angry about me saying this in my chat.
Fact. We don't get here without that being a fact.
Yes, exactly. And so when, the cult leader passes away, it'll be interesting to see if the cult endures and who takes it over. I mean, J.D. Vance is positioning himself. He certainly has, Peter Thiel and the technocrats, literal technocrats who will take over on some level, and the Palantir presence in the U.S. government. And Palantir is a data collection service that will scrape and already has scraped a lot of government websites for all kinds of information on Americans. There's a surveillance state that's growing there. This isn't me being a conspiracy theorist. It's the case. And so it may take on one of those kinds of forms, I think, Mo, perhaps in the post-Trump era. But I guess I'm skipping ahead in the movie.
It may, but here's the thing. When you talk about a leader taking over a cult is usually formed around an individual. We think about cults from David Koresh. Name skips me, the people who had ate the pudding.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant the
Marshall.
Branch Davidians? No,
well, yeah, Branch Davidians, but also I'm saying that you look at Jim Jones, all the cults are around the individual, the cult of personality. And in the absence of that personality, the cult falls apart. In this instance, you would likely see the cult falling apart on a congressional level. The Republicans would be less inclined to disagree with all of this lawlessness. Actually be more inclined to disagree with this lawlessness in the absence of the person Trump, who has a stranglehold party. We know that person is not going to be J.D. Vance going forward. Whether he's president or not, he's not going to have the type of command over the masses. I doubt it's going to be any singular individual. And so if I'm the Republican Party, if I'm MAGA, I have to get while the getting's good and do it while I can, because not to be morbid, I'm just being real. I'm talking about lived experience with the decline of my father. They're
Sure.
one fall away. It could be one fall publicly. I'm talking about a physical fall.
Right.
One fall privately. And all this ends. All of it. And because we have social media, we're going to know about it sooner than later.
Well, he's on the same accelerated pace plan that you've described MAGA is on, meaning that grift and the money grabs are all cranked up to 10. But in addition to that, he has these bizarre policies. The tariff policy, chaotic, impulsive. He even laid out these tariffs initially. Was it Liberation Day or whatever he called it? And it didn't make any sense. Like, you couldn't figure it out based on any kind of existing formula. Plus, it was just a bad idea to begin with. Now it has survived, but it's set up a system of patronage where different countries have to come to Donald Trump and offer him the kinds of deals that we've talked about, where the self-enrichment deals, something where he can gain personally. And that clearly is part of it. So we get to, and I will get to Canada, but we also get to foreign policy that has nothing to do with, so I'm mentioning the tariffs because, again, they're chaotic and impulsive. The drug trafficking interdiction thing is associated with some vision I think he has of like a 1980s world where the drug trafficking is coming in the way in which we've seen it articulated by Hegseth and by Trump, you know, on these boats out of Venezuela, out of Colombia. The reality is the current day stream of drugs comes in so many different ways. If you've done any reading around this, it is remarkable, actually, how many middlemen there are and how they've really dispersed the trafficking across so many networks that, you know, the idea somehow that the drugs are really on that boat in any kind of substantial way, it's almost laughable. Yet, this is our policy to take these boats out.
It is laughable, but it's also very serious. It's ridiculous. And there's something in that where Donald Trump, with the exception of the Cold War, seems to be stuck in 1986. And I'm not trying to make any statement about his cognitive time shifting. I'm just saying that his worldview is very much of the 1980s, this whole Trump doctrine, and he alone is want to be the one to save us. That, I think, is going to be another serious issue that we're not going to be able to resolve until after the Trump administration, where America will have to answer for killing innocent people. They are innocent people until they're convicted. We're talking about international waters. So it's not like we have jurisdiction over what we're doing off the coast of Venezuela. There will be a consequence to that. It's just not going to be soon.
Well, and it's expanding, and it's clear that some of these people are total innocents. And even those, as you said, who would be on a drug trafficking vessel are entitled to some kind of due process, or they would be detained, and they likely wouldn't be executed. I mean, they're summarily executed by the Americans. It's outrageous. I mean, this is truly extrajudicial killing. And it looks like just the beginning. I mean, he is talking increasingly about some kind of land incursion by American troops or troops accompanied by drug enforcement arms of the military. It's scary.
To Randy in the chat, who said a consequence from who? Well, hopefully after MAGA and this Trump administration, where we will approach some degree of normality. And whereas Trump, the individual, will not be subject to any of these consequences, I honestly don't believe he'll be alive in 2028. And again, I say that with great respect. I'm not wishing death upon him. But those who've enacted these plans, those who've carried out his wishes, are susceptible to prosecution and will be held accountable when all is said and done. I can't speak for the international community, but this is not going to go without some sort of response in administrations succeeding.
Yeah, is, I think it's optimistic to suggest that the midterms and the general will go off in any kind of normal way, but we can cross that bridge when we come to it. It sure looks as though a lot of things in America, institutions and systems are changing radically, and I think the elections will be part of that eventually as well. Let me ask you about the Canada thing. So, you know, Canada's our second biggest trading partner, and they put out this
Not for
ad.
long.
Yeah, not for long, exactly. Show it, if you would, again. Tony, show everyone the ad that has created such anger on the part of Trump that he's actually cut off trade negotiations with Canada.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
So Ontario put that ad out. It ran during the Blue Jays Seattle World Series, which is seen by 9 million people or 7 million people. But it apparently cut through to Donald Trump because he was infuriated by that to the point that he's cut off these negotiations with Canada, trade negotiations.
It doesn't surprise me that Canada seized on that. I remember that speech when Reagan gave it. I'm old enough to remember it. And it's weird how MAGA wants to claim itself as the party of Reagan. The GOP wants to claim itself as the party of Reagan, but they take nothing from what Reagan said about moments right now. They take nothing from Reagan as far as how we should view Russia as an adversary. They take nothing from him as far as, and look, I'm not a fan of trickle-down economics, but even Ronald Reagan would not support these type of economics. And it's, you know, there's a dissonance there, a cognitive dissonance that we can't explain other than it's a cult. Because if it weren't a cult, it would be susceptible to reason and facts, and they're not willing to listen to either.
Traditional Republican tenets of economic policy would be those that you heard Reagan talking about, against tariffs and for a free market. Now, America doesn't have a free market and never has had a free market, but the idea that you impose these tariffs, and these are withering tariffs that are designed to reflect the wants and impulses of one man, and that's Donald Trump. And, you know, witness the fact that he's cut off these negotiations with Canada. And again, America's second biggest trading partner. I mean, look what's happened with the relationship with China and how he screwed our own farmers as a result of this ridiculous back and forth with China. Then China goes to Brazil. They'll get their soybeans there. Their view is, hey, we're not screwing with you, America. We're done with this now. And so they're going to Brazil and to the latest news, the last couple of weeks, Argentina. So yes. Argentina and Brazil will be where the soybean products are going now to China. Those will be the producers. China will be the consumer. American farmers are left holding the soybean bag. They have relief checks that are being cut from Donald Trump because of this tariff damage, but that's not a business. They're not going to, you're supposed to cut relief checks to these farmers every year because they can't find customers for their soybean product. China was the #1 consumer of soybeans out of the American agriculture community. Then add to that the fact that Scott Bessent and his hedge fund buddies invested heavily in the Argentina, or is it Argentine? I can never keep track of what's appropriate. Argentinian will also work economy to the point that there was an imperative to prop up the Argentinian economy. And so they did it first with a $20 billion bailout and now a $40 billion bailout to Argentina so that they're able to have some economic growth. The hedge fund managers get that investment back And this is the final coda, Argentina is able to discount their soybean product more because of our subsidies to their economy, and they sell to China at a discount well below what the Americans were getting for their soybeans. It's the stuff of lunacy.
The only problem with what you said, Mark, it's a great distillation of everything which is going on, but it's very difficult to message that to Americans. It's very difficult to get Americans. I'm not saying that they're stupid. I'm just saying that it's a lot to ask people to pay that much attention. What needs to be done is to just very simply say, Donald Trump has sold out America. And because of that, your life is much more difficult. And just
I would, right again, there. I'd go to corruption. I would mention the word corruption or corrupt in almost every interview that I did. If you're a public figure and you're interested in, being part of the opposition, Democrats or whatever it might be. So in this case, it's a corrupt deal made for Scott Bessent, who's the Secretary of Treasury, Trump's Treasury for Trump administration. A corrupt deal is to pay off Trump's friends who are a hedge fund manager. And that's why we're bailing out Argentina. It's corrupt. It's all corrupt.
Yeah. And that's the way to tell it.
Yeah.
That's the way to tell it. Yeah.
Now to the White House and the destruction, Mo Kelly. I know you went to Georgetown University, I know.
Yes.
Did you ever go to the White House, or have you ever been through the White House?
Haven't been through the White House, been to the White House. That it's changed. It used to be you could walk pretty much up to the gates.
Right.
Then 9/11 happened, and then Trump happened. And what I mean by that is 9/11, they put up the blockades. Then Trump and the unrest of 2020 happened, and now you pushed even further back. You don't have the type of access to the White House that you had when I was in school 30 some odd years ago.
Yeah, you used to be able to take a picture right there at the fence, and you were close.
Can't do it now.
Yeah, you can't do it now. So even more to the point, they've closed the ellipse, that area near the White House, because from the ellipse you can see the demolition of the East Wing, and they're trying to completely eliminate any pictures of that demolition. It's I'm sorry. We have a piece of merch that says Project 1984 and a half, but I really always feel like this is really Orwellian. Like we said, the Trump administration, we said we weren't going to touch the anything involving the White House. We were just going to build a ballroom, and we don't want you to know about the fact that we've demolished the East Wing. And the visual of the demolition is really hard to stomach for a lot of Americans.
It's difficult. And now you can see the messaging in responses. Well, Obama had a basketball court put in, and everyone knows that used to be a tennis court. They just repainted the lines and put up a movable basketball goal. It took, I don't know, maybe $1,000 altogether or something. It's nominal amount.
Yeah.
But what one of the I would say the magic trick of Donald Trump is he's never held accountable to anything he said previously. He's not responsible. Yes, he said they're not going to touch the East Wing of the White House. Yes, not only did he lie then, he lies now. And unfortunately, there are no consequences for him, the individual who lies incessantly and with impunity. But again, going back to what we were talking about, the message is the corruption, where the money is coming from, who it's going to benefit. Americans, I believe, better understand that than just the undignified demolition of the symbolic structure of the White House.
I want to finish up with a question about reopening the government, because it really fits into a lot of what we've talked about. I see the closing of the government as working very well for Donald Trump. The minimal oversight that there is doesn't exist. The congressional questions that might have to do with the demolition of the East Wing, whether any historians were consulted, whether there was any sort of formal approval of this move, we know the answer is no and no, but right. Still that tepid, even pro forma kind of way in which there might be oversight, in quotes, is gone. So as long as you can keep the House in recess, and Mike Johnson wants to keep it in recess, he's almost got no incentive to reconvene this body because it works so well for his boss, Donald Trump, right now. I wonder if you can help us with some kind of, I don't want to say prediction, but the way in which you sort this out, how long might we be looking at this closing of government?
I think it's going to be for months. And I don't say that with any hyperbole, if only because for different reasons, both the Republicans and Democrats wanted this fight. Republicans wanted this fight for the points that you've made, Mark, because there's no downside as far as what they're trying to do right now. It's like, wait a minute, school's out. There's no teacher. There's no hall monitor. So we get to do whatever we want. No one can tell us no. That's the Republicans, and the Democrats may believe that they're engaging in a principled fight, but there's nothing really for them to gain. And now that they're committed to the fight, if they give in, then they look like they're the ones who chickened out, or this exercise was for nothing. It was an exercise in futility. So there's no reason for either side to back away from this fight. The Republicans are not willing to negotiate. The Democrats are not going to back down. So we're in this intractable position for the foreseeable future. And we're going into the holidays, let's not forget. So it could be the rest of the calendar year.
I mean, it's scary because there are a lot of people working essential workers. I've always felt if you think they're essential and you're going to make them work, then you've got to cut checks to them. They're essential enough to work, then they're essential enough to be paid. But that's not what's happening. Most of these workers, I mean, I think he's jackhammered some money out of the Pentagon and moved some stuff around to pay some of the soldiers because that's sort of his flex, but
Yeah.
TSA agents and those who are working in the control towers and all these federal employees, they're working and showing up to work without pay. And if it goes on for months and months, that's a sad fact. These people are going to have to, find side hustles or they may want to leave government completely.
I would say leave government completely because this is not going to change before the beginning of the year. Unfortunately, I don't mean to be pessimistic, but there's no reason to reopen the government Thanksgiving, if you know the congressional calendar.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I would wrap this up, but there's one story that's wild and it just broke yesterday and I had to get your thought on it. And it's this scandal hitting the NBA. Now, I don't think the entire NBA is involved, although I think the NBA is going to end up, they certainly have a black eye and they're certainly they may be fined. You had Kash Patel who, again, catches a jet out to wherever there's a big announcement and then, puts his FBI jacket on and tells you, yeah, we got him. It wasn't easy, but let me tell you, we got these NBA guys, illegal poker, and they were fixed poker games and they were tied up with the mob. And it does seem as though this is a pretty wide-ranging scandal from the standpoint of some luminaries out of the NBA being used to draw in people to these poker games that are run by the mafia, and they use X-ray technologies and all these other things to defraud the poker players of their money. That is to cheat them out of the money, and it was millions and millions of dollars. But also, NBA players, we know of one, this Terry Rozier, who seems as though he was, I don't know, was he under pressure? I don't know why this happened, but he apparently indicated that he had an injury, and that indication of the injury was passed along to some people who were betting, and they bet on what they call it a prop bet, the proposition that he's going to have fewer than a certain number of points. And he then had fewer than that number of points, and they paid out a huge amount to, again, they're suggesting they were mob related or some constellation of people who were betting in that way.
I had covered this for my former employer, KFI AM 640, ad nauseum, talking about the emerging betting scandals in professional sports, not just the NBA, but also Major League Baseball. We had talked about Shohei Ohtani's interpreter. We talked about how Dante Porter was banned from the NBA back in 2024. And I said, this is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. This is just what you can see. There's much more going on underneath. And let's not forget, this particular investigation was spanning more than a year. I want to say close to 2 years. So the indictments are legitimate. The investigations are legitimate. Now we can get past the whole Marshall Dillon, there's a new sheriff in town, Kash Patel, trying to seem tough. Get past that. This might, I don't want to be hyperbolic, but this could be the undoing of major professional sports as we know it because of what lies beneath. I call this the roach theory. Like if you see a roach in your house, don't worry about the one you see. Worry about the 20 in the walls that you don't see. Worry about the roaches that are in your house when the lights are off. You just turn on the light. They're just now turning on the light and seeing these few people. I'm telling you, there are dozens and dozens more, and it doesn't help that these leagues are supported in part by DraftKings and FanDuel and these legalized betting sites. This is going to get much worse before it gets better.
Well, the irony of what you point to is that the NBA was the first to embrace gambling. I mean, yes. NFL, Major League Baseball, always hands off. All of it was being done, but it was never legal. The NBA stepped forward. It seemed either courageous or inevitable, whatever, and then that led to legalized gambling in all of these different states, legalized gambling on sports. Now they actually have, posted the lines and this kind of thing. So in a way, you had gaming encroaching upon these sports in ways that it hadn't prior. It always had been sort of something in the back rooms. And as you say, I guess there might be more. What's astounding to me, and I guess why I'm sort of hesitant, is these guys make so much money. You don't see any kind of reasonable economic incentive for them to do this. I mean, if you're knocking down 23 million, what the hell do you care if you make 50,000, 100,000, 200, even 300,000 on a game?
But here's the point that Shaq made. Yes, you may be making that money on the upper echelon levels of the NBA, but a lot of these players on the lower level are not. And they can make millions of dollars by just floating out the information like, hey, LeBron isn't playing tonight. He's got a back out. So you want to put a lot of money on such and such. Or it's like, I know if you a person in the media, because I worked as a beat reporter, you can come in contact with a lot of information that can be helpful. What's different today as opposed to 20 years from ago is it's easier to bet. If I get information, I can weaponize that information immediately and place a bet on FanDuel, DraftKings. Now, the leagues have not allowed players to bet ever. That hasn't changed. But the people who have this information and can weaponize it and monetize it has exponentially grown, where if I find out something, which is, let's say I work to, right alongside AM 570 LA Sports, and you had athletes come in all the time. It's very easy to get information and monetize it in a way. I didn't have a bookie 20 years ago. I didn't have anyone I could call, but I have an app on my phone right now that I can place a bet because I heard that so-and-so is not going to be in the lineup tonight for the Dodgers.
That's so true. And if there's time, I'll tell you a story just like that. But I wanted to show you Terry Rozier. Do you have it, Tony? This is him on the court, and watch the way in which he misses shots and then turns the ball over. There's the first turnover. And you see this again in situation after there's a second turnover. And there's a third turnover. Then he goes in, misses a layup, really misses the layup. Then he takes a shot from three-point range, hits the front of the rim. I think that was it. Maybe I'm... The idea somehow that there is this going on is bizarre to me for the reasons we've said, but as you've kind of suggested, maybe it makes more sense. But this is a guy who was making dough, I think he was making some real money. So this is where I say, I don't know what was going on. I mean, if he was really dealing with some pretty bad people, then it could be hey, dude, you're going to do this, or there's, it's going to get ugly. And that's one kind of pressure. The other kind of pressure might just have to be, hey man, throw us a bone. We're all going to bet on you tonight, and blah 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 blah. I don't know, with your buddies. I don't know how that. I guess they're human beings, these people. But the one thing they emphasize in professional sports is, they have whole seminars on this when these guys come in, because they come in as young people. And they say, no gambling, don't do any gambling at all on, if you can avoid it at all, and certainly not on our sport,
What's I want to say disconcerting to me is the NBA specifically had this issue with one referee, Tim Donaghy, about 20 years ago. And I was working for a sports radio show at the time. And what he was saying on the sports radio show, no. It's not just me. There are other referees. There are other players. And now it looks looks to be like prescient, and the NBA wanted to cast him as this lone wolf who was out there doing things on his own. But once again, we're seeing mob ties and involvement. And Mark, when you say the players are discouraged from gambling at all, it's like you don't have to bet on the NBA. You can find yourself in a place where you're just down $40,000 to say, and someone comes to you and say, hey, I got a way where you can get those 40,000 back. You know, just don't make 5 shots tonight. Those are the prop bets. Terry Rozier will score under 10 points tonight. And it's like, if we know that you're not going to score 10 points, we're going to bet the house on that prop bet. But you got to do your part as a player. And the thing is, people don't know this. I don't want to sound conspiratorial, Mark. The NBA is an entertainment corporation. It is not a competition corporation. And they understand that for the entertainment corporation, they're not held to the same standards as other like high school and college sports, because there's always been this tenuous connection to sports betting.
I'll tell you the story quickly. I've been betting on sports for many, many years. And back when I was really betting, I've never really been a huge bettor. Like, I never bet money that would really matter. It was always just fun, you know. But you have to bet enough that you care, but not enough that it's going to affect your lifestyle at all. Like, you know, I can't go out to dinner this week because I went. Anyway, I get a call from a friend of mine. At the time, Paul Pierce was playing for the Celtics, and they're playing in Los Angeles. And he was in L.A., and I played a lot of poker, a lot. And at that time, I was really, you know, connected to a lot of people in poker, not the big games that, you know, I could never sit with Paul Pierce and play. They were playing for so much money. But he said, hey, man, Paul Pierce is playing cards here. And it was like, I want to say, he says, he's really drunk or whatever he was saying. He was really like, he's blotto is what he really said. He said, and there's a tip-off tomorrow with the Lakers at noon. And then I said, well, thanks a lot for the tip, but stay in touch or whatever. And I get a text, and it was like, Paul Pierce is still here. It was like 4 a.m., and he's still playing cards. And he's still wasted, is what my friend said. So I know that Pierce has to show up to play the Lakers at noon is the tip-off. And I know he was playing cards at 4 a.m., and I know he was, you know, not himself. He'd had a couple of pops. So I bet on the Lakers, knowing that Pierce is going to kind of be a no-show in this game. I mean, how could he possibly, right? Pierce went off for like 40 points that day.
But there's something you're leaving out, and you may not know. The unintended consequences of these investigations. What I mean by that is you may go in a house looking for drugs, and then you find the dead body in the bathtub. What I'm saying to you is there is also use of amphetamines and all sorts of other illicit substances, which are connected to these stories of how players may play cards until 4 or 5 in the morning and then show up on the court. That's the thing which is less discussed, and is other things going to come out of this investigation unrelated to the investigation.
That's really interesting. I'll tell you what I ascribed it to. It was not so nefarious. I thought, these guys are professional athletes. He could be up all night and he could still go off for 40 points. That's the kind of, I mean, I didn't even think that he could use some performance. No, I just think, no, man, you don't understand. He can get 3 hours sleep, show up, and then be out of his mind radically great because he's a great player, you know. Anyway, fun to kick it around with you, Mo. Love that you'll be visiting with us regularly. And yeah, all the best. The great Mo Kelly, everyone. Thanks, Mo. Bravo, my friend.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, I should have mentioned Michael Shore is away. He's in Europe for a couple of weeks, so he'll join Mo on Fridays as well, typically. And we can all kick around what's happening, the weekend politics. But Mo is just a wonderful resource. And Penny says, thanks, Mo. Thank you, Mo, says Obi. And Tammy, thank you. Mo is what Daryl wants. Mo. Yeah.
We have some exciting news because I believe Mo is going to be filling in for you. So I get to hang out with Mo for a few days. Yeah. That's going to be awesome.
It is. You know, as they say, eating caviar for breakfast, having Mo Kelly fill in.
I have to ask him about his apostrophe because he's got an apostrophe before Kelly. And I'm not sure if that changes the pronunciation of his name or not.
I think the idea is that Mo is the abbreviation, isn't it? Hang on a second. Mo Kelly, can you come back and clear this up?
Sure,
please?
I'm still here.
Okay. Go ahead. Tim.
Okay.
Yeah.
My full name is Morris O'Kelly, and some people call me Mo.
Okay.
And it just got. I had a friend and fraternity brother who just started calling me Mo Kelly because he didn't want to call me Morris O'Kelly. So it's a truncation of Morris.
That's interesting.
And
I didn't know
O'Kelly.
that. I thought it was a simple explanation, but it's actually a more complicated and interesting explanation.
So the apostrophe then is left over from the O apostrophe Kelly.
Correct.
Wow.
But there is no pronunciation for the apostrophe because in Hawaiian that would be a stop, like
Yes.
Mo Kelly. So that's why I thought, is it Hawaiian? Okay,
No, it's Irish. It's an Irish last name.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
When Irish eyes are smelling.
Can he start Monday? They're asking now.
Yeah.
Wow. He was too good is the problem. That's it.
That's right.
More Mo. That's it.
I don't know if you
it.
want him to fill in. The problem when
believe
you
me,
get a fill in that's too good, then you're out.
I'd be,
No.
I'd be happy at minimum to share the time and, at some point. We love Mo. Thank you for him, says like, well, you got a lot of love, man. If you want to feel good about yourself, go through the comments and you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you next week. Thanks, Mo Kelly.
Bye,
So
Mo.
long. Yeah, pretty great. Yeah, he'll be in, I think, in a couple of weeks to fill in. Ohio is for lovers. Mark Thompson is for...
Axolotls.
And what is that, Kim?
Axolotl is a rare and critically endangered lizard, or kind of
Wow.
like a salamander, found
Wow.
only in a certain lake in Mexico.
Wow.
The axolotl is one of my
Very
daughter's
impressive.
favorite animals. Mhm.
Man,
As a matter of fact,
It's
the
a real life
axolotl-
Pokemon, is what it is.
Is
it really has that look, huh?
It has these regenerative properties and is currently being studied because the possibility exists that what the axolotl is able to do could lead to humans being able to regrow limbs.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
pretty
know.
cool.
Axolotl knowledge.
Man, that's very impressive. Very
Yeah.
good knowledge indeed.
Hmm.
Wow. I know that there
He's
was
so cute.
I'm just seeing a research paper on them here as I'm Googling from
Yeah.
Dr. Emil Schellhausen the third. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, we talk a lot about them on the After Party Live.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently. Very impressive. Very sweet looking creature.
Yeah, a little smile.
Yeah, exactly. Very impressive. Last Angry Manny says, here's $10 in a super chat. Thank you, Last Angry Manny. President McKinley regretted imposing tariffs during one of his multiple terms. And even though Trump worships McKinley, Trump will never admit what McKinley stated regarding tariffs. Well, I don't think Trump can spell McKinley, and I don't think Trump knows anything about McKinley. And when you say he worships McKinley, I mean, maybe. I don't think he could name anything about McKinley's administration. I think you, in your comment, have just mentioned more than Trump is even aware of with McKinley. He might have read it off of, pre-written cards as he's making an announcement, but he has absolutely no interest in governmental policy and governmental strategies and real economics. Calgon, take me away, says Richard Delamater. Yes, that was a great campaign. Calgon, take me away. 1010 is the amount Trevor Starr in Hollywood throws into the super chat, breaking fake news. Trump announcing plans to demolish the Statue of Liberty and replace it with a gold statue of a 14-year-old girl in a bikini. I see. Trump said everyone has wanted this for 150 years. Wow. Man, there's some serious trolling going on, huh? Does Trump even understand that Navarro quoted a fictitious person to promote tariff policy, or is he just using the fraud for his grift, says Murphy? I think Trump has this thing about tariffs. I don't know where it comes from. I don't think he's aware of Navarro using fictitious quotes or information or even statistics to support it. I think it's my way or the highway, and I think a system of tariffs, the way it's been imposed, which is very different for each country, but it's all going in at one time. It is and I've made this point repeatedly. We did it at the time, and I'll just mention it to you again. It is setting up a system of patronage, meaning I'm coming to you the Mad King, Donald Trump, and you have imposed a 46% tax on my goods coming into America. What can we do to get that tax down? I'm wondering if there are interests here that might be something that works for you in America and you, President Trump, because you are a great leader and we want to do business with both you and your great country. So we're the country of Vietnam. You have a 46% tariff on us. What if we green light and quickly allow for the development without all the regulatory scheme that is here in Vietnam, the development of your resort? I know you have moved forward with a resort. You want to build this entire resort with a golf course and these beautiful accommodations. Let's just greenlight that already, because we're as frustrated as you are that our country is taking time with it. Now that we've greenlit it, can we just address this tariff problem? And what happened? They got a break on tariffs. Trump gets his resort, and they've already broken ground on it. So there you have it. Taco Trump is great branding. Yeah, well, that's true. That caught on for a while.
If we don't get to Friday Fabulous Florida, we're probably not going to have time for it.
Kim?
Yeah.
It occurs to me that if we don't do Friday Fabulous Florida now, we probably aren't going to be able to, because we have Michael Snyder waiting.
Yeah.
Okay. So without any further delay, I don't know why you felt so comfortable delaying, but I do love delaying, so I wasn't going to stand in your way. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
A knife-wielding Florida man allegedly, first of all, right away, it's winter, allegedly threatened to eat the neighbor's dog.
What?
During a trespassing dispute. Yeah.
I'm calling meth, or what's it, bath salts? Something
It does
bad.
feel very mind-altering substance related. A Florida man they've alleged, I should say, that he threatened to eat his neighbor's dog and stab the woman, who's his neighbor, for calling the cops during a property dispute that turned hostile. Minor Catledge is his name, allegedly confronting his neighbor as she walked her dog across a public path near his property. Catledge bizarrely proclaimed that he would, quote, eat her dog if she trespassed on the property that he believed was his, even though it was public property, as I stated. The woman called police. Officers spoke with Catledge about the property and appeared to have resolved the dispute. But a little over an hour later, the madman approached his neighbor's home with a knife and began to threaten her and her family. Well, I don't need to tell you, Kim. You can't approach a neighbor with a knife and threaten him.
It's a neighbor from hell. I'm going to give him a perfect 10, though. Look at that picture. You can see all this playing out. This guy is like, he's the perfect from Central Casting.
Yeah, we do rate the booking photos here on the Mark Thompson booking photo meter. I'm actually going to, I see what you're saying. It is kind of perfect Central Casting.
Yeah.
I'll give him an 8. Yeah, I think that's very, very strong. Well, he was arrested and went away from the property. I don't know whether it was his property or whether it was apparently public property, but he went away in police property, and that property was zip ties. Florida man is arrested after toddlers are pictured with guns, beer, and marijuana.
No.
Taylor Knoop of De Leon Springs was taken into custody. He was arrested after deputies and child welfare officials responded to allegations involving images of kids posing with drugs, alcohol, and a handgun.
What in the world? Oh.
The photos depicted an infant and a toddler in staged scenes involving marijuana, a Glock-style handgun, and a beer bottle. The residence was also deemed unsafe with exposed wiring and unfinished plywood walls. I mean, it was a mess in there. You can see We're showing you the pictures here, of course, concealing the identity of the toddler. Authorities say that Knoop admitted to being aware of the photos, confirmed the marijuana was real, although he claimed it belonged to someone else. He said, I didn't take those photos, but I did stage one of them as a joke.
Those poor babies. CPS.
They charged him with child neglect, citing both the photographic evidence and hazardous living conditions. It remains unclear who took the other disturbing photos, if Knoop wasn't the photographer, as he claims, and it is likely that further charges will be filed against other adults connected to this case. A Florida woman is accused of driving drunk with kids in the car and then biting a family member. The biting is big in Florida. You are going to like her booking photo. Oh. Yes, I knew it. She's an attractive lass. Lindsay Allen is her name.
Lindsay needs to stop drinking. She's a bad drunk. She's not a happy drunk.
Apparently, Kim is correct. She was arrested and booked into jail on 3 felony counts. I mean, if you're going to go for one, why not go for the hat trick? Child neglect. 1 charge for each of the 3 kids in the car. That's how she got to 3. She got to misdemeanor charges as well. 1 count of battery. Someone called 911 to report that Allen was allegedly intoxicated, operating a vehicle with her 3 kids in the car. The report said that Allen was reportedly restrained and on the ground. Well, that's when she can do her damage as a biter.
Who needs gators when you have people biting each other, says Karen.
She drove her car west on Pioneer Trail from a Halloween event, and a relative was concerned about her condition, managed to stop her at the intersection, saying that she was intoxicated, and the relative said, I'm concerned about your 3 kids. Well, the fight broke out, and that ended with her biting the relative's thumb. Officials noted visible bite marks on the victim.
Oh.
But the victim declined to have photos taken of the injury. Officers searched Allen's vehicle. They found 5 empty cans of an alcoholic iced tea drink. She was charged with domestic violence, battery, and 3 counts of child neglect. She was not charged with a DUI, which is to me perhaps the most unusual part of that story.
Was the biting and the battery more egregious or something?
I guess it was one of those things. But there she is. It's sad when an attractive gal like this has chosen a bad path in life.
It would have been so much better if she was not attractive. If she was ugly.
Yeah. You know? I'm speaking for all of the people who evaluate people superficially. Exactly. And there you go. That's I'm giving her a what would you give her on the booking scale?
Oh, she's definitely a 9-10. She's really attractive, but what's inside doesn't match what's outside. So yeah.
She's got a nasty inside, is what you're saying? And she's got a,
you think you might want to get close to her, and then she starts biting, and all bets are off.
I guess that's true. All right. 8 or 9 is what we're saying. Don't bite a battery. And finally, we have this bonus video for you, which might get us demonetized. We will see. We're not sure. Monkeys are spotted at Ocala Springs, and this was sent to us by a number of you, and thank you for sending us this video. This is a monkey festival that spontaneously took flight. These are monkeys jumping from trees. Isn't that right, Kim?
Yes. This lady is on a kayak, and all of a sudden the monkeys start splashing into the water all over the place. It's like monkeys falling from the sky.
It's raining monkeys. And Daryl says, you had me at monkeys. That was it. So we must, even though we don't want to, we must. The bylaws of the show require us to pick a favorite. I'll remind you, you saw and heard of the knife-wielding Florida man threatening to eat the neighbor's dog over the trespassing dispute. The other Florida man arrested after the toddlers were pictured with guns, beer, and marijuana. The Florida woman accused of driving drunk with kids in the car, then biting a family member when the conflict ensued. And then the kayaker delighted by a group of monkeys leaping into the water around her. What is your favorite, I ask you, Kim?
all of these stories are so Florida, but I can't bring myself to vote for the kid ones.
Yeah.
So
Kim, how are you?
I'm going with the knife wielding threats of eating the family dog.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Knife wielding threat to eat the family dog. Tony, what was chosen by those in the poll?
Right now, Monkeys is winning.
Monkeys is winning. What is your favorite, Tony?
Oh, Biting Drunk Girl.
But I love the way Tony says it. Oh, I mean, of course.
Biting Drunk Girl. Don't get too
let's
close,
hear her out.
Tony.
Let's hear her out, you know.
Close.
It could have just been one of those nights, you know.
Thank you. That's what we need. There you go. Tony, the romance lives. Yeah.
It's all fun and games, Tony, until your thumb's gone.
Yeah. I love that. Did you spell monkeys like that deliberately with an IYS? It doesn't really matter.
No, I think I was typing too fast. So
That's
sorry
okay.
about that.
Well done. Monkeys is in the lead, and that is Friday Fabulous Florida.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
We're running behind, Michael. I don't know.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Snyder is in studio. Very exciting to have you back in studio, Michael. Yeah. All of your gallery visits and your stuff that you were doing is concluded, and you're back among us.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
I'm not going to delay any further. Every Friday he comes through. He is a bona fide critic. He used to write for the San Francisco Chronicle. He's written for a number of different publications. He has written as a critic on music, on movies, on media generally, television series, streaming. When it comes to art gallery openings and underground clubs, he knows it all. When it comes to subtitled movies or superhero movies, he knows that all. He comes and goes on a rainbow. How about it for the great culture blaster, Michael Snyder?
And I am happy to be here. You know what they say, Mark? Mo Kelly, Les Thompson. I'm on board with that, baby.
I don't blame you for jumping on board that train.
Anyway, first I need to say that I don't understand all the fuss by preservationists over the White House East Wing teardown. I myself personally demolished 6 East Wings at Kentucky Fried Chicken last night.
I get it.
Just
wings
kidding.
And wings.
No, if you believe that, I have a silo of soybeans to sell you at a discounted price.
You tie it all in. It's
these
amazing.
Renovations, Mark, it's such an embarrassment. The planned ballroom is profligate, tacky, ostentatious. It's kind of like a moron's idea of opulence, but let us move on. I may be back in LA for a while, but that doesn't mean I didn't exult at the Warriors' home opener overtime victory at Chase Center. You were talking basketball with Mo.
Sure.
The Warriors defeated the Denver Nuggets, creamy filling or not. Steph is a wizard. Took over the game in the fourth quarter. It was amazing. And I hope the Niners have similar success on Sunday in Houston over Texas. And I hope I'm not too hungover from the big Constellation Club Halloween party at the Formosa on Saturday night to get up and watch.
You are amazing, the way you hit these different social events. So great culture blaster.
Baby. I wanted to get all that in there because it is the Halloween season.
Yeah.
And our first movie that we're going to cover has kind of a weird, horrific sci-fi vibe to it. It's called Begonia. And it is, in fact, based on the wacky and weird and wonderful 2003 Korean film, Save the Green Planet. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to talk about that movie specifically. And I know you love to suggest that I cover all these foreign films and I love subtitles, but this is a good old-fashioned English language film. It's called Begonia again. And by the way, Begonia, just for those who aren't aware, is an ancient Mediterranean belief that bees could be generated from the carcass of a dead cow through some kind of weird ritual.
Seriously?
How does this relate to the movie? Well, if you go see it, you may get a bigger handle on that. But Begonia is a very, very dark comedy that has a lot to say about the lunacy of today's divided, divisive, conspiracy-laden, and digital media choked
world, and in its favor, it is the latest from the iconoclastic director Yorgos Lanthimos. And this is the guy that did The Favorite, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, and Poor Things. And that was a little more recent. And they may still be my favorite of his films, but this has its moments, even though it kind of goes off the rails in a deliberate manner at a very significant juncture. But getting there is such a wild and disturbing ride, and you have great principal cast members here. So here's the essence of it. Michelle, played by regular Yorgos cast member Emma Stone, is the CEO of an Amazon-type company. Teddy, played by Jesse Plemons, is a low-level worker there, and he and his seemingly cognitively challenged brother Don, played by Aidan Delbus, keep bees at their ramshackle house and despair over the dying of the bees, which we see is part and parcel of their anxiety. So, more to the point, they plan to kidnap Michelle in an attempt to prevent global destruction, purportedly by Michelle's otherworldly comrades. So they are borderline loony, one would think. Will Tracy's script is appropriately kind of funky and freaky. I was caught up in it. It wasn't totally satisfying. Not everything gels the way it might, and I still think that The Favorite and The Killing of a Sacred Deer are high watermarks in Lanthimos' filmography. But man, I got a kick out of Begonia, and it doesn't hurt that you have somebody like Emma Stone and somebody like Jesse Plemons at the heart of it. It's in select theaters, and Begonia gets a recommendation.
Wow. You piqued my interest. I might like it.
You very well might. By the way,
it's not a horror movie at all.
Not per se, but it's horrific. And remember, they're kidnapping someone, and they think she is something more than one would expect.
Okay.
So one more quick casting note.
Yeah.
Alicia Silverstone shows up here in a role, and she's
she's a good actress, isn't she?
She's a fine actress.
Yeah.
Okay, this is something very near and dear to me, close to my heart.
Yes, sir.
I'm a Philadelphia native. I have roots in New York and New Jersey. So Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, was on my radar a while ago, and I thought, this is going to be cool. And what it is essentially is a slice of the sprawling life of a world-renowned artist who is wrestling with depression and trying to hold on to his identity as an everyman. And we're talking about Springsteen here. In fact, if you were going to boil this down to one short phrase, it would be anxious rock star with daddy issues, bangs waitress and regrets it. That's basically the essence of this. But it also has clips of Springsteen performing live with the E Street Band. It has him interacting with some of his friends of his youth, his road manager, and of course, what we would have to refer to as his manager, and not only his manager, his advocate, the guy who first said, "I've seen the future of rock and roll," and his name is Bruce Springsteen, that being John Landau, who was listed as a producer on many of his records as well. At this point in Springsteen's life, he's already had success. His album, The River, in the wake of The Wild, the Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle, was a hit. He was drawing massive crowds. He had kind of a hit single with Hungry Heart, and he wanted to kind of get back to basics. So what he ends up doing is moving into a house on a lake back home in the Asbury Park, New Jersey area, and recording demos, some of which would eventually end up on Born in the USA, his massive double breakthrough. And also a bunch of songs that were far more intimate, and he's recording them on a little cassette player in this house on his own, and these are the songs that would become a very deep and spare and dark album called Nebraska.
Sure.
While he's doing this, he's also sitting in with a band at the local club where he first surfaced, the Stone Pony, and where he meets a hot young waitress and takes up with her for a brief time. So, it's interesting, but it's such a tiny little bit of Springsteen's life.
I'm unclear. This is a drama or this is a documentary?
It's a docudrama.
It's a docudrama. So these are actors playing Springsteen.
You're not going to focus in on him picking up a waitress in a
No, what I'm saying, okay, I get it, but you haven't mentioned any stars or people or directors or anything yet. You said, you said we're going to focus on him. I don't know.
I'm going to get to that. I wanted to give you the context of this thing. It is about this little piece of life. And the life of a superstar. So here's the point.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Springsteen is played by Jeremy Allen White. And I'm watching this thing and going, is it the bear? Is it the boss? Is it the bear? Is it the boss? That's right, Jeremy Allen White, who plays Carmy, a.k.a. the bear, on the FX drama comedy The Bear. And, you know, he's quite good, but there's sort of a disconnect there because he still looks like Jeremy Allen White. And we know Springsteen so well. He has been in our consciousness, on screen. Many of us have seen him live. We love his music. And White does a good approximation of his vocals. There are live performance situations. The people they cast as the E Street Band kind of look like them. You know how AI, you tell AI, give me a video, and I wanted to feature Max Weinberg and blah, 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 and everybody kind of looks a little off, just a little off. So that was an issue with the casting. But I mean, I had the same issue with My Weekend with Marilyn. Michelle Williams does not really look like Marilyn Monroe.
Right.
You know, so that kind of creates a problem with suspension of disbelief. But White is very, very good here, and it's really interesting to see these intimate moments. It's just not enough.
It doesn't quite. You would have liked to have seen a broader treatment of his ascendance to rock stardom as opposed to getting him there already, or what?
Maybe that would be the simplistic way to approach the story. No. But I still felt like, man, I'm enjoying these moments.
Come on, man.
When I was a kid, too young to go into a bar, I was able to go to the Main Point, which was a club in Bryn Mawr, PA. Again, I was born in Philly. Born in Philly. No, I will not do a Springsteen impression, but I went to see them very, very early on, he and the E Street Band.
Sure.
And I was absolutely blown away. And he was so kind of connected to the audience. And that whole idea of him being an everyman is played up here because he's at the Stone Pony. He's approached by people from high school who knew him back then. He was able to kind of hang out a little bit and interact with people, and there wasn't a lot of frippery. There was not a lot of, pay me homage. So that's kind of interesting to see. The director, by the way, Scott Cooper, did some really wonderful films in the past. Crazy Heart, Antlers, The Pale Blue Eye. This just didn't fully work for me. And yet, by the same token, if you're a fan of Bruce Springsteen, I think you should probably see it. And you may go, this guy isn't Springsteen. Or you may go, woohoo.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Springsteen, Deliver Me from Nowhere is the name of the movie.
Yes, it is.
What else do you have, a great culture blaster?
I have a film that kind of knocked me out that came out in theaters a week or so ago. And for some ridiculous reason, I didn't get an access to a screening, but it is on Netflix as of today. And boy, it is a powerhouse. It's the latest film from director Catherine Bigelow. It's called A House of Dynamite. And Bigelow is, by the way, longtime companion of James Cameron of Avatar and Aliens fame. And she directed the Oscar winner, The Hurt Locker. She directed Zero Dark 30. She's an accomplished director.
Yeah, very accomplished.
This movie, A House of Dynamite, is a kind of a dramatic triptych or kind of Rashomon-esque look at the harrowing events of an unidentified missile on its way to the United States. They have no idea where it comes from, who shot it off. It comes from the Pacific Theater of Operations. It's a modern-day drama, and it is tense as the entire superstructure of the government attempts to decide what they're going to do as this nuclear missile is heading directly for the United States. And so you see everything, all the events from three standpoints. And
sounds interesting.
It's beyond interesting. The tension is palpable throughout, despite the movie's structure. By the way, that structure seems to result in diminishing returns, but I was on board for the whole thing.
All right.
It ends in a fashion that's either dramatically necessary or haphazard or borderline cruel. And let me just point out that there are some great performances, including Idris Elba as the president, Rebecca Ferguson as someone working in ops. Jared Harris plays the Secretary of Defense. Oh, I'm sorry. Should that be the Secretary of War? I think I'll defer to the character played by Jared Harris. And there's also Tracy Letts as a general. It's really pretty engaging. And honestly, for all of the flaws I saw in the aspect of its, three-part view of the action, I still feel it was worthwhile.
Wow.
And it's on Netflix. You can see it.
A House of Dynamite, the latest from Catherine Bigelow. What else do you have, a great culture blaster?
I will quickly talk about Hedda, which is an adaptation by the director and screenwriter Nia DaCosta, who came to prominence with her remake of Candyman, which was pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
But this is kind of a reimagining of Henrik Ibsen's classic play, Hedda Gabler. And in this, Hedda, who's sort of a kind of socialite party girl, played by Tessa Thompson, is dealing with romantic angst and is in the middle of this massive upscale party. It's like kind of an early 1950s UK setting. There's live bands and there's all of this romantic intrigue and people manipulating one another and triangles and quadrangles and relationships going off the rails. It really was engaging in that way. And God, art direction was wonderful. You really got that sense of the upper crust in England back in the 50s. And, it's post-war and everything is, woohoo, let's dance, let's jitterbug.
Live it up.
Yeah, they're living it up. So there are aspects of it that I really, really liked. And it obviously deals with sexuality in a very modern way. It seems to me that some of the women are bi. There's one woman played in magnificent fashion by the German actress Nina Haas, who is she's a lesbian, she's a writer. Apparently Hedda is part of this whole kind of group of literary types. I kind of wish it was a little sharper in focus because it gets all over the place. A good performance by Imogen Poots as a woman caught between her own sexual desire and her desire to kind of be acknowledged for her intellect. There are many interesting threads going through this remake of Ibsen's Hedda, or this reimagining of it. It is in limited release in theaters right now, and it is going to start streaming on various VOD platforms on October 29th. I want to say that the accents, they get pretty thick, and there's a lot of mumbling and, people talking over
that's
one another.
bad for me. I can't hear anything anymore.
Well, yeah, but by the same token, put on the subtitles and you'll be fine. Again,
because it is streaming.
Yeah, Hedda I think it's worth checking out.
A lot of sex, it sounds like, Michael, which you like because you're a degenerate liberal.
Let's just close things out with a movie I wasn't really that enamored of. It's called Regretting You, and it's a critic-proof melodrama based on a bestseller and bolstered by its cast. Although one of the crucial actors in this, Allison Williams of Get Out, Megan, and Girls, doesn't quite have the depth needed to sell her role. And it's about four friends, two sisters, and their husbands who have to deal with growing older and having odd romantic desires for the other partner. And, there are children involved at this point, and a very devastating accident takes out two of them, and secrets become revealed over time. And Josh Boone, who directed The Fault in Our Stars, directed this one. So you can tell his territory is angsty romance with a gut punch of tragic loss to be overcome. And again, to its credit, the cast is pretty good. I didn't think that Williams was again, she was the least of them. But when you have a movie that also features Dave Franco and, Mason Thames is in this thing, he's kind of on the rise. McKenna Grace, a young actress who is finding her footing in the business. People are going to like it, I guess. I'm trying not to regret the 2 hours spent watching Regretting You, but regretfully, I will not get those 2 hours back.
So you're not a fan of Regretting
It
You.
is wide. It's in theaters.
It's in theaters and likely will be streamable soon.
Yeah, sooner than I think they probably would like. I don't know.
He also featured Hedda, based on the Ibsen story. Michael thought it was interesting. It was kind of intriguing, at least the way you summarized it, like this post-World War II liberated, what shall we say, joie de vivre?
There's a certain joie de vivre, but there's obviously a shadow over all of it, as people are still going to be venal and self-serving and trying to seduce one another. I don't know,
A House of Dynamite, the latest from Catherine Bigelow. You can stream it, amazingly. It's a very good movie. Michael really feels that her oeuvre is so strong, her body of work. Events of around an unidentified missile coming to the U.S. Idris Elba is the president. Gosh, I wish Idris Elba was actually the president.
I agree with you.
Rebecca Ferguson's in it. Jared Harris, Tracy Letts. Go see it, and you can go see it in your living room.
True.
A House of Dynamite, that's called.
You may have issues with the closure when you watch this movie.
Yeah, that's not a perfect movie, Michael says. Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Speaking of imperfection, directed by Scott Cooper. It picks up Springsteen, already a success, working on songs for the Nebraska album. He meets a waitress. They fall in love. Jeremy Allen White from The Bear plays Springsteen. Michael said it's interesting. If you're into Springsteen, you might like it. You might also be annoyed by it. It sounded to me like it didn't ring your bell.
I won't denigrate it. And by the way, it's not so much that they fall in love, but they fall in bed.
I got it. Okay, I said love.
Oh, by the way, wait. One more quick note. John Landau, who I mentioned as his longtime advocate, is in fact played by the ever popular, and I know you love him because you probably watched Succession, but his portrayal by Jeremy Strong is strong.
Yeah.
Stephen Graham plays his father, by the way, Springsteen's father, and Gabby Hoffman plays his mom, and they're wonderful. And our old pal Mark Maron is even in this as engineer Chuck Plotkin at one point. So just a couple of quick casting notes.
I don't know Mark Maron, but apparently he's an old pal of yours. But
yes, we
certainly do. I respect him, but I don't know him.
Comedy scene in San Francisco.
Begonia, I missed him somehow. I don't know when he was there. Begonia is where you started.
Yes.
Ancient belief is, Begonia, that bees can emerge from a cow carcass. Is that what you said?
With the proper ritual, Mark.
Anyway, this
it
does involve bees because Jesse Plemons and his brother apparently raise bees at their place. But it's directed by the guy who did The Favorite, The Killing of Sacred Deer, Poor Things.
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Emma Stone plays this CEO of an Amazon-type company, and she is kidnapped by Plemons and his brother, again, trying to save the planet. You liked it. My sense was you liked it, didn't love it. You felt it didn't quite tie up neatly, but you still liked it a lot.
It kind of does some crazy stuff 3/4 of the way through that, visually bold, but maybe off-putting for some. But yeah, there you go.
All right. What a culture blaster. Your cup runneth over. And thank you very much for your patience in waiting to get your segment on.
Oh, it's okay. I understand it. I'm used to it,
You can find the Culture Blaster if you want to read the Culture Blaster. And I think he's very much appreciated when you read his stuff. It's at thevoicesf.org. Thevoicesf.org. Look for Michael Snyder. And across Culture Blaster media, you can find Michael in all the wonderful places where the Culture Blaster inhabits, on Instagram and YouTube and all the different places. Any closing words, Michael?
Just go Niners.
I love it. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Say goodbye, Culture Blaster.
Happy pre-Halloween, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, my gosh. What a great way to finish the show. I don't even know.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Kim, it has been a pleasure. What a week. Tony, you stepped up in so many ways. Even in some ways, people probably aren't even aware. Tony is one of those guys, you can put up the bat beam and you can say, hey, can you re-edit this? Can you put some in? He's there. I mean, it's really cool.
Always busy.
Yeah. Always looking to make a couple extra bucks, which I respect.
I'd literally make a business card just say mercenary, really, for me. That's what it feels like sometimes.
I don't even know, and I don't want to know, what the politics of Tony is, because it's not important. He does all his work so well, And same with Kim. I have no idea.
Oh,
there's rumor that she's a big MAGA person. I can't even imagine. I mean, look, I didn't say it. I'm saying it was rumored at one point. I'm saying that.
I don't know who you're listening to.
I don't know.
There's never been anything like this.
I'm saying that she might have some.
Who is having that conversation?
I'm starting the rumor, okay? Can I just say that? I'm starting the rumor. Kim is MAGA. Yeah. I appreciate the Culture Blaster's wit and intelligence, says Roberta. Wow. Isn't that nice, Michael? You got a little bit of, you've got
my new best friend.
Yeah, there you go. Let me quickly just finish out here because I really appreciate the support with Super Chat. This thumbnail traces my failed voting of my life. I do not want to die with poo.
What?
Rhonda Abrams says, what was the thumbnail is about Trump and, do you recall what the thumbnail is?
It's Reagan and Trump shaking hands.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Wow, that's great. Isn't it funny? I didn't even recall what it was. Harry Magnan with the $10 super chat. Thank you, Rhonda. Happy Fabulous Friday. There once were two hosts, Mark and Kim, whose banter was sharp, never dim. On the Thompson Show stage, they'd rant, rave, and rage, then laugh till the light started to dim. Oh, my God. It changed the ending. And then I liked it. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Harry. Appreciate that with that $10 super chat.
Big shout out.
Richard Delamater, I'll get to in a second. Happy weekend to all. It seems to have arrived too soon, but here we are. We survived another week of the American catastrophe. Get some sun and energize, says Rev P. Good plan. Richard Delamater says, I've got a chocolate donut and you can't stop me. Well,
All right, then.
I hope that's a code of some kind. I think we need to blame Albert today. Said, I think
Albert, thank you.
Yeah, Albert went to his other job today. Natasha Jackson says, hey, Mark, this is a hell of a week. Can't believe what he did to our White House. Yeah, it's a metaphor. I made that point before. I think it's probably been made by a lot of people. I mean, to see the physical destruction of what has happened with a government and institutions, with guardrails, with those things that would be so very relevant in terms of regulating what is an unregulated power grab. America's in a very dark place. And I don't see it getting lighter anytime soon. But I think we addressed a lot of it. And I thought Mo was really good on the government shutdown, et cetera. In fact, Mo Kelly is a great addition to the Mark Thompson Show, says Mimi Gill. Couldn't agree more. Love Mo Kelly and love that he's part of things. Canada is our friend. What is Trump doing? Trump is trying to control what is said by other countries. Yeah, I mean, he's able to do it on some level. He is the most powerful man in the world. It's a scary thought, but it's true. And Calvin Wong, who is the shadow producer of this show. First thing, vote yes on Prop 50. Yeah, if you're a Californian, that would be the right move. So, Kim, tell me what's on the docket for next week, please.
Oh, we've got Gary Dietrich coming in on Monday, so that's going to be great. Of course, David K. Johnston on Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's,
well, I guess that's...
like
there's a reason that this place is fun.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Really good. The best.
I thought we had some other special bookings as well, in addition to the regulars.
Not on Monday. The Dr. D will be in on Tuesday as well.
Yeah, Dr. D will be in.
Yeah.
I think we have a couple of other, I don't know, we'll see. Thanks again to Michael Snyder. Thanks again to Mo Kelly. Thanks again to the professors who joined us. If you missed that, that's a great conversation. I really feel as though that book was so provocative and is so provocative. We'll have a link to buy that book, won't we, Tony, under the videos? Yeah, Tony will make that happen. A link to their book under this video and under the conversation. Please share this show. Share it on your social media, on Facebook, or share a segment from the show, whatever you like. And until Monday...
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Kim, thank you.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Out of time. Tony, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Till Monday. Bye-bye.